Welcome to Lead. My name is Lance, and I'll give a little bit about my background at another time. For now, here's what this is about: becoming a better, more effective leader. We're going to do that in episodes between 15 and 20 or so minutes, so let's dive in. The material available to hone your skills as a leader are legion. I hope what follows proves worthy of the time that you spend with it. There are many ways that we could begin, and here's where we will, with a definition of leadership. If you spent any time on the subject, you know attempts to define leadership are many. One of them is, leadership is a relational context in which someone enlists others in an effort to accomplish a task or achieve an objective. While technically accurate, let's face it, that's pretty boring. I like to keep things simple because simple is easier to remember. So let's go with this definition. A leader is someone that others follow. Now, some people may think that they're a leader, but in truth, no one's following them. So they aren't really a leader, they're just going for a walk. A leader is one that others follow. I found the most helpful way to think of leadership is as influence. Leadership is the ability to influence others to contribute their time and effort in achieving something worthwhile. Leadership is influence. As a skill, leadership is morally neutral. It can be to an either good or evil end. Historically, some highly effective leaders have pursued destructive ends. We think of someone like Alexander the Great or Julius Caesar, Adolf Hitler, Joseph Stalin, or Genghis Khan. Others have leveraged their influence to advance the flourishing of humanity. The Bible's Joseph, Abraham Lincoln, Marie Curie, Florence Nightingale, Martin Luther King Jr. come to mind. Evaluating these from purely the perspective of influence, all were effective leaders in terms of their ability to move others to contribute their time and effort toward some objective that the leader chose. For our purposes here, we're going to consider leadership from the perspective of what makes a great leader who doesn't just do something remarkable, but does something laudable, something worthwhile in terms of making the lives of others better. Our leadership ought to aim at seeing others flourish, to become all that God has created them to be. Now, leadership gurus love to debate whether leaders are born to it or learn it. Both history and experience indicate that leadership is both a talent and a skill. Some people are just natural leaders. Their personality is such that they have a talent to influence others. I think we've all seen this. Get any group of people together and eventually someone will rise as the leader. In fact, when I was a freshman in high school back in the early 1970s, social studies classes conducted an experiment on students I only learned about later. We were oblivious to what was going on at the time. Each class of about 30 students was broken into groups of 6. We were then assigned a project, and we were given 15-20 minutes to get it done. I don't remember what we were supposed to do. It was something relatively simple. But later I learned that the objective of the exercise wasn't really a learning experience for the students. It was for the school to discover who the leaders among the students were. So they put a half dozen of them in a group, gave them an assignment. Then they wanted to see who would emerge to take charge, organize the group, and set about a plan for accomplishing the assignment. The groups that did the best job had the most effective leaders. It was a couple years later that the same teacher pulled me aside and showed me my name in the class roster. There was a little mark next to my name, and she explained that it meant that I had been identified by the school as a leader because I was the one that had taken charge of that little group 2 years before. I thought at the time that my motive was simply to not score poorly in the exercise. When the other students in the group showed no interest in working towards the assignment's conclusion, it seemed natural to gain their interest in it and then set to work. We did. They enjoyed the process. Little did we all know that larger interests were at play. The point is, leadership is a talent inherent in some people. It's the result of a particular personality. But leadership is also a skill that can be learned and developed. There are elements of effective leadership that, once identified, can be focused on and grown. Good leaders know that, and while they often begin as natural leaders, talented leaders, in order to excel, they go after the skills that will make them even more effective. Now, think of a master craftsman. Someone who's skilled at, let's say, carpentry. He has a set of tools that he knows how to use to construct something like an ornate bookshelf. But when he first began as an apprentice years before, he knew little what tools that he would need, nor how to use them. But let's say he had a natural skill at turning little pieces of wood into figures with a pocket knife. And a carpenter recognized his talent, asked him if he'd like to do more with wood. When he said he did, he became the carpenter's apprentice. And over time, his natural talent at turning wood into useful furniture and pleasing decorations was enabled by learning how special tools could accomplish unique tasks. It wasn't just knowing which tools did what, but how to use them to accomplish their task. That's a good way to think of developing as a leader. Just as anyone can use carpentry tools to fashion wood into something utilitarian, if they've developed the knowledge and skill, it's those with the natural aptitude and talent at woodmaking that can craft something genuinely remarkable. This series is about first identifying the tools of leadership and then suggestions on how to use them to excel as leaders. Those who have no natural talent to lead can still do it if they use the tools of effective leadership. So those who bring a measure of talent to their role as a leader can become good leaders as they gain proficiency in using the tools of leadership. But standout leaders, great leaders, they are those who couple great talent with the skillful and consistent use of the tools of leadership. A word at this point to seasoned leaders. Please don't write off this series as too elementary. It may be that you've been a leader for years and you're doing quite well at it. But I have a question. When was the last time you intentionally went after being an even better leader? Are you already the best leader that you can be? Or could you grow? Could you be more effective in influencing others? I owe it to you here at the outset to let you know my perspective on leadership. I'm a Christian pastor. I seek to leverage my influence as a leader to see people come to faith in Christ and then to grow in grace and truth and to see the community in which I live flourish according to God's blessing. Maybe you aren't a Christian, a follower of Jesus. Much of what follows will still be helpful to you as a leader because really the principles of good leadership are true no matter who wields them. But be aware that many of my examples are going to be faith-based. Just as I have been enriched by some secular sources and research on leadership, I trust that you will find much to learn about how to be a better leader from those who are engaged in the ministry of a local church. To you pastors and ministry leaders, never stop pressing into a better version of yourself as a leader. You're going to hear me say this many times in what follows. Everything rises or falls on leadership. Everything. So true is that, I suspect, that it may become a frequent saying of your own. And once it is, you will stay conscious of the need to keep growing as a leader. And as you share it with others, they too will catch the message and turn it into their own experience. And that's part of what it means to be a great leader. I want to ask you to consider the state of the world today. Many people recognize that a major challenge, if not the major need, is good leadership. It's certainly a problem in today's church. Simply put, there's a leadership vacuum. And since nature hates a vacuum, what's rushed in to fill the void of good leadership is poor leadership. What we do here with this series, it may not change the course of our nation or the church at large, but it can change where we serve. Our church, the community where we live, the company that we work for, maybe the school that we attend. Change happens one person at a time. Let's take responsibility for the assignment that God has given us and be the best leader for the people that He has called us to serve. In our next episode, we will take a look at the levels of leadership.